Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to 4-8 Day 2 notes. All right, so 4-8 Day 1, we looked at the visual representation of dividing fractions, but we are actually going to divide them out. We talked about, during last notes, how we are going to have to use a multiplicative inverse. So those examples are right up above you. But the big thing with dividing fractions is just to keep the change and the flip. So what that means is we're going to keep the first fraction. So for number 5, I'm going to keep -3 over 4. I'm going to change the division to multiplication. And then I'm going to flip this. Wait, that's not a fraction. So remember, when we have a number, any number, you can always put that number over 1 to create a quick fraction. So -11 over 1. But we're actually going to flip that for division. So I'm going to put that 1 up in the numerator and the -11 down in the denominator. So 1 over -11. Now let's revisit our negatives. So this fraction right here, this is a negative fraction. And this fraction right here, 1 over -11 is still just a negative fraction. So all we're doing there is taking a negative times a negative. So last chapter we looked at our triangle. If you cover up the two negatives, we know that our final answer right here is positive. So if you would like to drop those negatives from now on, feel free, because a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, we're going to look and see one quick thing that I can do is just multiply straight across. So -3 times 1 and 4 times -11. But before that, if I were you, I like dealing with much smaller numbers. So in order to deal with some smaller numbers, some of you are like, yeah, me. I don't want the big numbers. So whenever you see a number up here, so this is like a 3, and then this number opposite down below is an 11. If those two numbers share a factor, you can divide by that factor. Same thing right here. If this 4 and this 1, if they share a factor, divide by that factor. But unfortunately in this problem, we are not able to. That's called cross simplifying, if you've never heard that before. But cross simplifying just makes smaller numbers if they have shared factors. If not, we're just multiply straight across. So like I said, 1 times 3 gives us 3. And then 4 times 11 gives us 44. And then remember, our final answer is positive because of that triangle. And then we always look to see that it is in simplest form. This one is, in fact, in simplest form because 3 over 44 cannot be simplified. All right, there's number 5. We're going to go ahead and move on to number 6. I'm going to zoom in just so we can see a little bit better. So remember, whenever we have a mixed number, you first have to turn that mixed number into an improper fraction. So quick reminder, 6 times 8, and then we add 3. So 6 times 8 is 48, plus 3 more is 51, and that's over 8. Also, don't forget to bring down that negative symbol. Then we still have this division symbol, and then we got 7/8. So once we've set up our problem, now we can go ahead and keep, change, flip. You cannot have any mixed numbers inside of, or whenever we're dividing fractions. So I'm going to keep the first fraction. I got -51 over 8. I'm going to change this division symbol into a multiplication symbol, and then I'm going to flip 7/8. So now this is 8/7. All right, so what I was talking about before is looking to see if those kind of opposite diagonals, if they have any factors in common. So 51 and 7, they do not, because I know 7 times 7 is 49. That's not 51. But 8 and 8, they do have similar factors, and it's itself. So whenever you have this is the case, you are dividing by 8, and what that does is just make much smaller numbers. So when I divide it by 8, you could just put a line through it and put 1, divide by 8, put 1. So now we're just going to multiply straight across. So you got a negative fraction. So we see that this is negative, and this one's a positive. So I know my final answer is going to be negative. And then I'll have my fraction bar right here. 51 times 1, we get 51. And then 1 times 7, we get 7. And then, like I said, make sure it is in simplest form. You can leave this as an improper fraction. That's totally fine to leave it as -51 over 7. But if you would like to turn it into a mixed number, that's fine as well. It's completely up to you. Most of the time, I just say, hey, just leave it. Just leave it in an improper fraction, because there are times that I've seen students try to convert an improper fraction into a mixed number, and they do it incorrectly. So just be careful. That's my warning to you. But again, like I said, you can convert this, and how we do that is we put that number on top inside of our division bar, I guess. And then 7 goes into 51 7 times. I got 49. When I subtract it out, I get 2, which means that I got 7 wholes and 2 as a remainder over 7. So this is the same thing, a negative 7 and 2/7. So like I said, just go ahead and leave this. It's negative 51 over 7. Again, then the last one we are going to do together is question 7. I got 5. And remember, whenever we have 5 or any whole number, just or integer, I guess, put it over 1. I got 5 over 1 divided by negative 4 and 2/7. When that's the case, we're going to check mark it. So 4 times 7 is 28, plus 2 more is 30. So I got 30 over 7, and that fraction's still negative. I'm going to bring everything else down. So a division bar or a division symbol and 5 over 1. Now I'm going to start my division. So I keep, I change, and then I flippity-do. So I got a 7 and I got a 30. Don't forget that negative. Okay, and then again, we look to see if we can cross simplify. Now, you don't have to cross simplify, but if I were you, I would, again, because smaller numbers. So 1 and 7, nothing can happen there. We just leave that. But 5, I know that 5 does go into 30. So I'm going to divide this one by 5, and I'm going to divide this one by 5 in order to cross simplify. So when I divide by 5, I get 1. When I divide by 5, I get 6. Now I'm going to multiply straight across. So 1 times negative 7 is negative 7 over, and then 1 times 6 is 6. I would leave this. Okay, and if you're listening to this, I would go ahead and turn this into a mixed number. That's great practice. So if you're listening to this right now, go ahead and turn negative 7 over 6 into a mixed number. This is your listening clue. Alrighty, now you are going to also practice dividing fractions 2 times. You're going to practice it with number 8 and number 9. So go ahead and pause the video and then push play once you have solved these out or completely simplified them, and also simplify the fractions if needed, and then push play to check your answers. Alrighty, take a look at my answers. I went ahead and simplified this one out completely, and I got that my answer is 5. If you need to pause this video to check my work, the only step that may be a little bit confusing is this last one. Instead of me crossing through each one of those numbers, I went ahead and just rewrote the fractions as the simplified answers. All right, let's look at number 9. Like I said, pause if needed to fix your work. Number 9, same thing, keep, change, flip. My final answer there is 14. Notice that both of these answers ended up being a whole number. And the whole number is not over 1 as the final answer. You need to make sure to fully simplify it because 14 divided by 1 is just 14. All righty, let's look down at our word problem. Love us some word problems. How many play costumes can be made with 26 1/4 yards of fabric if each one requires that much? So if I have a total of 26 1/4 yards, let's go ahead and write that. That's how much I start with. And if each one requires 4 3/4 yards, I have to divide it out to figure out how many costumes I can make. So I'm going to take the total, 26 1/4, divided by 4 3/8. So let's go ahead and write that out, 26 1/4. And I'm divide it up to figure out how many costumes I can make. 4 3/4, or 3/8. All right, yes, these are large numbers. And again, there's 0 calculators being used. So we're going to go ahead and check mark if needed. You may have to just show this work off to the side, myself included. 6 times 4 is 24, 8, 9, 10. 104 plus 1 more because of the numerator. So 105 over 4 divided by, check mark, 32 plus 3 more is 35 over 8. So then I'm going to keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep the first fraction. Sorry, I'm moving over here. Clearly don't have any more space. Times, when I flip that, I got 8 35ths. And then I know for a fact, at least, without having to multiply or divide anything out, 4 and 8 can be simplified. I know I can divide both of those by 4. So go ahead and do that. And then if you don't even want to mess with the 105 and the 35, you can go ahead and just multiply straight across and simplify later. Or you can divide it out now. So this one ends up being 1. This one over here ends up being 2. I'm just going to look to see. So 105 divided by 35. I think it could go in 3 times. Let's go ahead and try that. 35 times, and then 70, and then 35 more. Yep, perfect, 105. So I know that that's essentially me dividing this one by 35 and me dividing this one by 35 to get that my new answer right there is 3, and this one is just 1. So my new fractions, it's like 3 over 1 times 2 over 1, which means that I'm going to multiply straight across, and I get my final answer is 6. So what that means is that I can make 6 yards or 6 costumes with 26 1/4 yards of fabric. I'm going to save your time just a little bit and not write a sentence there, but like I said, that just means I can make 6 play costumes. All right, now you are going to practice with the Pepsi bottling machine to be restocked with lids every 2 3/4 hours. If the machine runs for 19 1/4 total hours, how many times will it have to be restocked with lids? So if 19 1/4 is the total, remember you always want to do total divided by what happens each hour in order to get your final answer. So go ahead and pause the video, test this out. Remember, you are going to have to likely multiply these things out. You don't have to cross simplify, but if not, just multiply straight across and then simplify it down at the end. Okay, go ahead and pause. Okie doke. I went ahead and multiplied these things. 19 times 4 ended up being 76, but remember you have to add that numerator, that 1. So 77 over 4 divided by 11 over 4 when I checked mark 2 3/4. Keep, change, flip. Those ended up simplifying. And again, from this step, if you don't want to cross simplify, you can take 77/4 times 4 over 11 and just multiply straight across from there. So if I want to do 77 times 4, I get 28. 28, add 2 more, so 308. And so that would be 308 over 4 times 11, which is 44. And then you can divide that out. So 308 divided by 44, that's why we went ahead and practiced that long division before this chapter started. And then this would end up clearly having to be a 7, because 7 times 44, we can just triple check. 8, 2, and 28, 308. Yeah. So therefore, our final answer is, in fact, going to be that 7. Either way, you're going to get that answer. So like I said, if cross simplifying isn't your jam, you can just multiply straight across and then just simplify that fraction at the end. If it is your jam, then obviously you're going to deal with much smaller numbers. Alrighty, that is the end of notes. Hopefully you learned a thing or two, especially with those negatives bringing into our division of fractions. So good luck on problems.